It's finally banlist season, so today I'm going to bring you my predictions and wish list for the upcoming August 2024 banlist. I'll be explaining why each card is actually on the list and why they're in that spot, and I'll even go over some really popular banlist predictions as well that actually aren't on my list either. Also, this list is going to be based off of my opinion as well as recent Konami trends for their banlists as well. And if you disagree with me on anything, that's okay. No one's going to have a perfect banlist prediction. So let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are and let me know why as well you'd make a certain change. But like I said, this is going to be a banlist prediction and wish list all rolled up into one video. But I do want to make a very concerted effort to actually focus on making the list as realistic as possible, whether that's going to be based off of Konami trends or upcoming releases. But with that being said, here are my August 2024 Yu-Gi-Oh! Banlist wishlist and predictions. Starting off with the ban section, I have 4 cards I want to talk about today, and they're the same 4 cards I've been talking about for months. Well, with one small exception. Our first ban card is going to be none other than Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. This card is incredibly unhealthy, and it's so easily made now, especially because all the new Fiendsmith cards are finally legal. The fact that Beatrice is completely generic is the problem here. Because you can send literally any card to the graveyard, you're able to set up yourself for almost any play, whether it's going to be to send a starter to the graveyard to then revive back and get your combo going, or it's going to be to send a card like the Black Goat Laughs to be able to beat Interruption, or even a card like Angel of Blue Tears to set any trap card from your deck. Because Beatrice exists, you can access the entirety of your Snake Eyes combo through the use of a single Fiendsmith Engraver. So a full Fiendsmith combo leads into full Snake Eye combo and vice versa. And banning Beatrice also impacts the already incredibly powerful Fiendsmith engine without ruining the engine for other decks. Up next is Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity, another card that is incredibly unhealthy for the game. It's essentially a turn skip card and can be easily made thanks to Crimson Dragon cheating it out on your opponent's turn to make it so they can't activate any cards or effects. Now, it's nowhere near as generic as a card like Beatrice is, but at least Beatrice has some counterplay, while Calamity doesn't have anything because you can't activate effects in response to the effect of Calamity. Right now, it's mostly seeing play in a deck like Centurion because they can easily set up 2 level 12 Synchro monsters, including a copy of Crimson Dragon, to be able to cheat out the Calamity. And with Centurion getting even more support, the deck is going to be very good even without Calamity in the format, and they already have access to Cosmic Blazar Dragon as well, which is going to be just as good if not better in the right situation. Basically, Calamities never leads to anything productive or healthy for Yu-Gi-Oh! It should not be in the game at all, but it also leads to good future proofing for the game as well. Up next is Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Now, so many of you have been telling me over and over again that Gimmick Puppet Nightmare is not the problem, it's Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. And you're right, I agree with you that Albion the Sanctifier Dragon is a massive problem for pretty much any deck that's trying to Gimmick Puppet the opponent. But it's not enough of a problem that it's going to be banned right away before getting a reprint. In my opinion, Konami would rather ban the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare than ban the Albion the Sanctifier Dragon before the Megatins come out and before its reprint. At the end of the day, Konami is going to make business decisions to try and make as much money as possible, and they know Branded is a very fan-favored deck. So by reprinting a copy of Albion the Sanctifier Dragon in the tins, they'll sell more tins, which will make them more money, and in that case, once that's all done, once the tins have been taken care of, then they're going to look at banning Albion if it still ends up being a problem with the other cards that are replacements for the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. And keeping Albion legal just allows Branded to play through a lot more cards and interruptions, including something like Evenly Matched. Gimmick Puppet Nightmare was also a really expensive card before its reprint a couple of months ago, but now that's been reprinted and Konami's cashed down on the card, I think it's much more likely they hit that one than they do hit something like Albion. And we've already seen in Master Duel that they've banned Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, and they've also banned its replacement in Eidos as well. But honestly, the main reason why I have Gimmick Puppet Nightmare on this list is solely to do with the fact that there's no reprint yet to Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. If the reprint had already happened and we're a few months since then, I would say absolutely ban Albion. But for the time being, I'm going to stick with my banning of Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. And the final banned card I want to talk about today is going to be none other than Arch Nemesis Protoss. Let me be very frank about this. Arch Nemesis Protoss coming back to the game was a massive mistake on Konami's end, and they've already announced when they've made mistakes in the past before. They brought back a card like Fairy Tail Snow and then quickly banned it. They brought back Zodiac Trident and banned it as well. In the past, they brought back Snatch Steal and banned it one format later. Konami tries to make the game better by reintroducing certain cards, but I honestly believe that keeping Protoss in the game was a significant mistake. The card just is way too powerful and is so generic and easily searched out by pretty much any deck that can make a rank 4 monster. Basically, you summon out the Infernal Flame Banshee as a rank 4 monster, which can search for your copy of Nemesis Flag, and Nemesis Flag can then search for the copy of Protoss. When Protoss hits the field, you know if you're playing a fire deck, a dark deck, or any attribute of deck, you're going to be losing the game because they can just turn skip you into oblivion. Now, is Protoss a traditional turn skip? Absolutely not, but it still is incredibly powerful and very unhealthy. It's like one of the main win conditions of a deck like Ritual Beast, which is incredibly good in this format. If the card was unsearchable, then that's another story to me, but because it's so easily accessible by any deck that can make that rank 4 monster, I think it should not be existing in the game today. But moving on to our limited section, I have 10 cards I want to talk about in the limited list, and the first one is going to be none other than Snake Eye Ash. Snash is incredibly powerful and is easily the best 1-card starter in the entirety of the Snake Eye deck. We've already seen in the OCG that Snake Eye Ash is already at 1 copy, and Snake Eyes is still the best deck in that format. Now granted, they have Rage of the Abyss already and the new Azamina cards, which makes Snake Eye even better, but that's not to say that the hit isn't warranted. By putting Snake Eye Ash to 1 copy, you're reducing the consistency of a deck like Snake Eye, which has so many amazing 1-card starters, and by reducing that number by 2, the deck becomes a lot more manageable, especially if you can interrupt or get rid of the copy of Snake Eye Ash. Now, Flamber's Dragon is obviously the more problematic card, and there's no doubt in my mind that it's a better card than Snake Eye Ash. But the thing with Flamber's Dragon is they're not going to hit it for 2 reasons. Firstly, by hitting Flamber's Dragon, they probably won't be reprinting it in the Megatons, which would be unfortunate because it is a secret rare that they can cash in on. And the second reason is going to be that if you hit Flamber's Dragon, you probably have to ban it, which means the deck would be pretty much dead. I don't think Konami wants to do that, especially with the new Azamina cards coming out in just a couple of months. The only workaround for that without banning any cards from the Snake Eye strategy, in my opinion, is putting Snake Eye Ash to 1 copy. I'm also putting Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils to 1 copy. The card is incredibly generic, very powerful, and allows you to play through multiple different hand traps. Sure, you can use it in response to Droll and Lockbird, or use it on the draw phase where Droll can't even be activated, but the card can also help you play around Ash Blossom at least a little bit. If your copy of original Sinful Spoils does happen to get ashed, you can always banish the Wanted, return the original Sinful Spoils back to the deck, and draw a card, so you and your opponent go even on card advantage. The card is just way too powerful and so generic, and honestly, bringing it down to 1 copy removes 2 additional 1-card combos from the Snake Eye deck. The same goes for Bonfire, which definitely should be at 1 copy. Now, do I think that happens on this upcoming list? That's tough to say because we are expecting it to get a reprint in the Megatons. But it is a consistency card in the best deck in the game, and we've seen time after time that Konami is willing to limit these cards to make decks a bit more balanced. I think again, if you're going to be limiting a card like Bonfire, you're reducing the consistency of Snake Eye significantly, especially when combining that with the limits to Wanted and Snake Eye Ash. But that's 3 limits to a deck like Snake Eye, and you're banning the Beatrice as well, which is a pseudo hit to that deck too. But now I want to talk about some other decks that are going to be getting hits as well, starting off with Yubel, which is seeing a lot of popularity. The card I want to hit from the Yubel deck is going to be none other than Opening of the Spirit Gates, which is one of the best 1-card combos for the strategy. If we're going to have a significant hit to a deck like Snake Eyes, which has been around for about 6 months now, we also need to impact a deck like Yubel too. Opening of the Spirit Gates is incredible for many reasons, not just because it gets you access to your Dark Beckoning Beast, which is going to be a great normal summon, which gets you another normal summon, but also because it recovers resources from the graveyard, both in terms of monsters and for continuous spell cards, assuming you have a level 10 monster on the field. And looking at a pretty standard Yubel Fiendsmith list, pretty much all the good cards are all really new. Nightmare Throne came out in Legacy of Destruction, you have the new Fiendsmith cards that came out in Infinite Forbidden, you have a card like Spirit of Yubel that came out in Phantom Nightmare as well, but that's not the problematic card. All of these cards over here are really good, but they're too new to hit. But then you have a card like Opening of the Spirit Gates, which has already been reprinted, is incredibly powerful, acting as both a 1-card combo and as an extender as well, and also recycles your resources too. In my opinion, there is no other option in the Yubel deck to hit at the time being. Everything is just way too new outside of Opening of the Spirit Gates, and for that reason, I think Opening is a prime target to go to 1 in its upcoming ban list. But just like Yubel and Snake Eyes, Tenpai Dragon is also a top 3 deck in Yu-Gi-Oh, and for that reason, I want to limit Sangen summoning. Now this really sucks because I've been really grinding hard to play Tenpai Dragon, and putting summoning to 1 copy would definitely hurt the deck a lot, because you really want to see that card to protect you from pretty much anything. Not only is it a great one-card combo for your turn 1 plays to go into spheres, but it's also a great card to be able to OTK and protect your plays as well. The deck also doesn't rely on powerful secret rare cards that don't have a reprint like Snake Eyes Flamber's Dragon and Phantom of Yubel. The entire archetype is super low rarity. We have a bunch of common cards as well as one super rare in Pydra and one ultra rare in Genroku. With that being the case, even though the strategy is still very new, I think it's very fair to limit a card like Sangan Summoning, which is definitely the best card in the entire archetype. Summoning is what gives the deck its unfair advantage. Protecting them from activated effects is really important. Being an OTK machine, the turn 1 plays, all of that, it just makes so much sense, especially if they're going to leave something like Pot of Prosperity potentially at 3 copies. But those are the top 3 meta decks, Snake Eye, Yubel, and Tenpai Dragon, and I do think there's another deck that does need to have a hit to it or else it's going to be really problematic, and that deck is going to be the Gimmick Puppet FTK. So my suggestion is to limit the number 40 Gimmick Puppet of strings. I've been searching for a way to get rid of the Gimmick Puppet FTK without banning any of the new cards or any of the old cards either, and the best solution I could come up with was to limit number 40 just like in the OCG. Now the FTK still is intact, absolutely, you can do the combo with just one number 40, but it does make it a bit more susceptible to hand traps. Using infinite impermanence on the number 40 to give string counters can be really powerful because it's going to be hard for them to destroy cards on the field without it. It's not a perfect solution to get rid of the FTK, but with cards like Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, the Bestials, Dimension Shifter, and Droll and Lockbird, we could be in a pretty good position to be able to beat the FTK. Skill Drain should have never come back to 3 copies. The card is incredibly overpowered, unhealthy, and just makes games decided by its effect alone. It's also an unsearchable card that can have a huge impact on winning or losing a game. And honestly, all the other floodgates are at 1 copy, so put this card to 1 as well. And my last 3 limits are going to be cards that move from 0 to 1 copy. Starting off with Prank Kids Meow Meow Moo. This card is really important for the Prank Kids strategy, and Prank Kids is doing nothing without it. The card is not going to make Prank Kids overpowered by any means. It still can't compete with decks like Snake Eye, Fiendsmith Yubel, or even Tenpai Dragon, or so many other strategies in the game today. So bring Meow Meow Moo back to 1 copy, please. Heavy Storm is at 1 in every single other format except for the TCG, and it makes so much sense. At best case, it's a better Harpy's Feather Duster, and at worst case, it's a worse Harpy's Feather Duster. I honestly believe the card could come back and it'll see side deck play at most. And finally is Glow Up Bulb. Now sure, it's a 1-card Link 2, which means it's also a 1-card Fiendsmith combo, but I don't think it's going to see that much play, and if it does, it's going to be an unsearchable card you just draw off the top of your deck, and it could boost consistency, but it can also really hurt you in the long run because you lose your normal summon. If Glow Up Bulb does come back, its impact is going to be overstated in my opinion. The card is fine, it could definitely be at 1 copy, and it's not going to cause any problems. That's it for my limited section, and normally I would move on to my semi-limits, but I don't have anything in the semi-limited section. I don't think anything deserves to be there at the time being. But for my unlimited section, I have 2 cards I want to talk about. Starting off with Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This card is incredibly powerful, but it is not as good as Kashtira Fenrir. If Fenrir can stay at 3 copies for this long, Pankratops can definitely come back to 3 as well. At the best case, it's a side deck card, and it really isn't going to be too impactful because it's not as easy to summon out as a card like Fenrir. Sure, it'll see a slight rise in popularity now that it's back to 3 copies, but I don't think it's going to be impactful enough in the format to deserve to go back to 2 or 1 copies in the near future. And finally is going to be Armageddon Knight. It went from 1 to 2, now it can go from 2 to 3 copies. The card is really solid overall. It's a great summon out from the deck or from the hand or from wherever, honestly, but using your normal summon on Armageddon Knight just isn't impactful enough. Sending a card to the graveyard is fine overall, but it's not going to be crazy powerful like a card like Snake Eye Ashes as a normal summon alone. What I'm trying to say is that a normal summon needs to be better than just Foolish Burial. But anyways, that is my list, and I want to go over a few other cards that are still really popular choices to potentially be banned or limited or whatever the case might be, and that way you have an idea of why I didn't add them onto my list as well. Starting off with Appaloosa. Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, is another popular prediction on people's ban list, and while I do think it's not long until it does get banned, I don't think it happens until the next ban list at the earliest. This would be the first list after Rarity Collection 2, and I think the second or even the third list after Rarity 1 was when Barone got banned in the first place. The same goes for IP Masquerena. Making SP on the opponent's turn is already really solid, especially because you can chain block it with Flamberge's effects too. I just think it's too early after the Rarity 2 reprint for it to get banned. Moon of the Closed Heaven is too new. I could see it getting banned to make Fiendsmith access more difficult, but not until 2025 in my opinion. Fabled Lurie is in a similar position as well. It's a great card to search with Tract, but banning it almost turns off the entire Fiendsmith cards as an engine. Albion the Sanctifier Dragon is great and definitely problematic, but without a reprint I don't see it getting banned. Branded Fusion goes to 1 at worst, and considering it's done very little in the format, I think Konami is viewing the deck as being power crept already. And if Branded does need to get hit, it's not because of the engine, it's because of the finishing play being the puppet lock. Dimensional Barrier should have been hit a long time ago, but now it only affects very few decks. And with Beatrice potentially getting banned, it means you can't easily use Transaction Rollback or Angel Blue Tears to get to it. Kashtira Fenrir is an amazing card, there's no doubt about it, but it hasn't done too much in this specific format. And it's arguable that right now, Kashtira Unicorn is actually a better card because extra decks are so tight on space right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Fenrir got hit, but I'm not expecting it. I would love it if Dimension Shifter got banned or even put to 1 copy, but I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think they're going to be killing Snake Eyes on this list, which means we need another Silver Bullet card against that strategy, but I really do hope it does get banned. Max C cannot come back to the TCG. If it does, Konami will eat into their sales of Rage of the Abyss when the second Molcharmi comes out. Maxi is also incredibly unhealthy and should never have even been printed in the first place. Heavy Metal Foes Electromite would be awesome to come back, and honestly it definitely could. It's not like it's way overpowered or anything, but I don't think it does because Konami has a vendetta against Pendulum Monsters, so I doubt it happens. Finally is Summon Sorceress, which got an errata in the OCG, and I don't think it comes off the list in the TCG until we finally announce the errata as well. But that's my complete ban list, wish list, and predictions, so let me know down in the comments what are your thoughts on the upcoming ban list and what are you expecting to get hit or come off the list as well, and make sure to let me know your reasoning as well. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'm planning on bringing you my ultimate guide on how to beat Fiendsmith Yubel, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you get that video in your sub box really soon. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.